GTii finding a new low. What could potentially happen for tomorrow's session and the following ones? Well, let's go ahead and find out within this video. What is up, you guys? Thank you so much for stopping by. Once again, this is ARCa coming at you with a GTii technicals, raw price action, and statistical threat of analysis. Before we get started, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video with a friend so that you and them could consider joining our trading community in Discord called ARCab. With that said, let's go ahead and dive right in. Okay, so we're going to change the script. We're going to flip the script a little bit here because there seems to be a little bit of confusion as to what's happening within this price action here. Okay, so I need you guys to understand that when I'm telling you that this momentum indicator here, we're going to start with the statistics first, by the way. This momentum indicator here, stochastic momentum, which is proprietary to TradingView software. The link is in the description below if you want to go ahead and make an account and trade like me. But when I say that I've tested this, I've back tested particularly the stochastic momentum alone in the 3-day chart for GTii throughout the entire trading history. And I get this result. I mean, look at this, 11 iterations, 10 guessed correct. I'm talking about in guessing the direction of the asset in general. That gives us a 90%, so pretty much a 91% accuracy in telling us the direction of the asset. And I have been telling you guys that this is not ready. This is not ready yet. And you can see that it's pivoted towards the downside. Okay, now we pair this with BBWP, which is a volatility represented by this indicator, BBWP, right? So we are trying to meet a certain condition. We're trying to set a certain condition in order for us to make an upside move. So in other words, I've actually said this to somebody before, but in other words, we need to make sure that the toothpaste is on the toothbrush before we put it in our mouth to brush our teeth. Okay, so right now the toothpaste is still in our hands and we haven't put it on the toothbrush. So please, you guys, please know what I'm telling you here. When I say that this thing has a 90% in guessing the direction of the asset, I really do mean almost perfect, but not all the way. But it's very good to consider its odds. Okay, so while the stochastic momentum is still facing the downside, and notice that we are well within now we're well within the oversold percentile. This is similar to an RSI, so we can use that. Okay, so now that we're in this oversold percentile, the likelihood of finding a reversal soon is greater. Now, in particular here, volatility. We have these lines right here, right? This is the 90 percentile. Anything beyond this point is critical volatility zone. Okay, so we left this green line here yesterday so that we can see how we're moving, and you can see now we've surpassed it. Okay, so in the conditions, what I'm telling you is that we absolutely need the momentum oscillator to correct. It needs to change. It needs to pivot towards the upside alongside the BBWP well within the volatility, the critical volatility zone, which is anything above this 90% line. Okay, so now, I mean, just look very closely. We'll make it big so that you can see what's happening. Now we have recently made the cross into critical volatility. And now that the moving average is absolutely pitched to the upside. But remember, this is direction neutral. This does not mean that because it's going up, that the price action is going up. What tells us the direction for volatility is the momentum indicator. So this oscillator is telling us and suggesting, I mean, arguably now that we can see, it's actually starting to, let's make this big as well so that you can see what I mean. You can see right here, you can see a kink right there. So you can see that the kink is now starting to happen and there is a potential slowing down of the sell pressure, which is why I'm telling you that we are potentially at a bottom or near the bottom. So because stochastic momentum is still suggesting a continuation onto the downside. Okay, so know that whatever is happening here is going to, you know what, I can actually just make a drawing for you guys to understand exactly what I mean, because I don't like the comments of you blaming me for your entry when I'm clearly telling you that this is not ready It is not there yet. It needs to meet the conditions. It needs to meet the criteria in order for us to make that massive move of 3,000% to the upside. Remember that these are statistics too, okay? These averages are just averages. It's a mean for us to be able to gain or evaluate future targets. Okay, so in this case, this is what we're looking for. Okay, I want to make sure that I'm making this utterly clear for everyone to just know. Okay, so this is what we need here. Okay, let me go ahead and just correct this line, and we're gonna make it a different color so that we can see exactly what's happening here. We'll make it a solid line. Okay. And you'll begin to notice for yourself when it does start happening. Okay, so now the next line is this. This is not usually, I usually prepare as much as I can for the analysis, but in this case I just definitely see a little too much confusion here and a little too much passion in this, because we need to be as sharp as we could be for this type of situation. We can't just enter and and then expect everything to be okay, because while the stochastic momentum, which has a 90% hit rate in guessing that direction, is still suggesting downside, we should take that pretty heavily. Okay, so this is what we're looking for. We're looking for the contraction versus expansion of momentum versus volatility. Okay, so in order for us to meet an upside, we need this to happen. And as you can see, it's already starting to make that pivot. So guys, you have to be a little patient here. I'm willing to answer anything for you, but we can't just kind of YOLO into these situations. Okay, there is massive upside for GTii, and there's absolutely the fundamentals to back it as well. Okay, so know that that's what we need from volatility versus momentum profile to meet this upside thrust, of which is going to take an average month to fulfill. Okay, so upon that criteria being met, we can then expect the move to take about a month. So this is not fast. This is definitely, we're looking at it in the 3-day chart. This is a macro time frame, and I'm telling you that we are potentially making a macro high. So macro highs, I mean, look at these. Every single tiny little candle is 3 months long here. So you can just see how this is, timely. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the next chart. We'll try to move as fast as possible. Yesterday, I did mention that I didn't see it as likely to go all the way back down to our support range, but I did mention that in case we do, we have the 200-day simple moving average in confluence with the lower area of our support range. And look what has happened, okay? So we're right down here to that 200-day moving average, and we have found a little bit of a bounce. I do see still some potential downside. We could potentially test this again, maybe even wick below the 200 before a recovery. But just know that things are starting to get really oversold with this. This is particularly the time where people start selling and institutions start buying. They know when you are under too much pressure and you're going to give up. Institutions know this. They see your stop losses. They see your sell orders. They see all of you selling at once. So they know that this is now the time to buy. Usually when they buy is when you're selling out of fear. Okay, so please make sure of those things. Another thing is that nothing is guaranteed in the markets. Okay, we need to practice risk management. We need to know that having a controlled amount of losses is better than having an uncontrolled amount of losses, because they will end up as an excessive amount of losses at a random number. We can't have that. They have to be measured. Okay, so so this is really the only thing I wanted to show you here. There's still, I believe, 3 days for this candle to close. We don't want a 5-day candle to start below the newly converted resistance into support from this channel. Okay, so we don't want this candle to close below this, or else there's still going to be some downside to look at. But thus far, the play is still the play. Okay, now the last chart. Even in making the downside today, you can see that I'll make a trend line here so that you can see exactly what I mean. Even in making this downside, you can see that all of these drives of hidden bullish divergence are still not they're still not invalidated. So if price goes beneath this line here, then that divergence would be invalidated. Then if price goes beneath the second one here, this divergence would be invalidated. So what it's doing right now is still printing yet another drive of hidden bullish divergence. So this is just accumulating massive thrust. So this is typical for something that's getting ready for a large move. Okay, this divergence chart is usually the opposition of price action versus the RSI or versus momentum. Okay, so in this case, we're using the RSI, and you can see that we're massively oversold down here. Okay, so let's open up a multi-pane to see what we have for the shorter term time frame. Let's go ahead and look at the 30-minute immediate short term so that we can see into what could potentially happen tomorrow. Okay, so this is the diagram for the RSI properties that I would like for you to look at as I speak over here. These four zones are these four zones located right here. Okay, so the immediate short term time frame. Excuse me, it is looking mighty bearish for the immediate short term. Okay, so this is suggesting a continuation onto the downside, which is in accordance of what I mentioned here, of this looking for a potential downside to test the 200-day simple moving average and the bottom of our support range before a continuation up. Okay, so this can likely be that. This is immediate short term, so this is likely to happen in the early session, since there's no pre-market for the GTii asset. So now this time frame, the buy hourly, is starting to pivot towards the upside. However, we do need to practice some patience here, because we can see that yes, while it is suggesting, or while the downside pivot is starting to minimize, we are still well within the grips of the bear strength percentile here. Okay, we're well within this area. We don't want to be there. Okay, or else we do jump right back into oversold percentile. The moving average, represented by this pink line, this is bearish. When the RSI signal, purple line, is below the moving average, it is still bearish. Okay, however, we can't use too much of this as a bias because it is suggesting sideways trading. So there is a potential downside to sideways trading in the immediate short term. Okay, 6-hour RSI is suggesting a continuation to the downside, but however, you can see that the moving average is now starting to pivot towards the upside, and you can see that the RSI signal has been using this moving average as a form of support. So there is a potential find of support very soon. We can actually fail it a little bit and then continue on up. Okay, now the daily time frame, which is something that we actually have not seen it just yet. So while we're sitting in the shallow areas of the oversold percentile, which is right over here, we are likely to be gravitated into the previous zone, which is the strength, the bear strength percentile. Okay, so this is still oversold. Let's look at the buy daily. Buy daily is still suggesting some downside, which means that we are likely to see sideways trading followed by some downside and continuously testing this range that we're in for the next few days. No, just please know that we do have the 2.272. We can wick down to these areas, okay, and continue on up. So this is likely to be what is happening for the next couple days. Okay, while the volatility versus momentum gather their thrust for our actual 3,000% move, averaged move. Okay, so I hope that this video can clear up what I'm saying. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'll make sure to leave the links in the description below for you to consider joining the ARCa trading community in Discord. But yes, I think that's about it. Anyway, yes, I wish you well, and I wish you a good night. Please know that I'm not a financial advisor. Please don't follow my instructions unless you do your own DD. I can't actually suggest for you to sell or buy any assets. Okay. Just do your own DD and we'll be okay, you guys. Yeah, so I wish you well. I wish you a great night, and I will catch you at the bell mañana. Adios.